Hi, I'm Michael Wargo, team pilot with Precision Aerobatics. Today we're going to learn a little bit about how to practice difficult maneuvers. And there's the way that I do it. And I'm going to kind of show you how the progression kind of goes to be able to master something that you're not going to master this afternoon. You're not going to make 5 flights and say, I got it. This is something that's going to take a while. So I'm going to show you my techniques and the things that I do, and hopefully they'll help you. The first thing I'm going to tell you is, you've heard a million times out of my mouth and everybody else's that try the maneuvers up high, at least a couple of mistakes high. But as you get better and better and better, practicing them way up at altitude just doesn't make any sense. They're a little difficult to see, a little more difficult to feel. However, altitude is your friend. There's a maneuver that I like where I take off and I do 2 points very low to the ground and straight to the ground. So what I like to do is, as I'm going to take off, I'm going to, instead of doing it right at the ground level, I'm going to climb to someplace comfortable and then do it and just pretend that's my takeoff. Then I'm going to go around and I'm going to try and keep descending, making those 2 points right where I think they would be during the takeoff run, and until I can kind of get that wing where I want it. So let's start by this. We're going to go up that high. Now I'm going to go out in 2 points. Now you guys have all seen me do it much lower than this. So in order to practice it, I got to get used to a few things. So the big trick here is to get your eyes used to where the plane's going to be when it's actually doing this maneuver. So don't do it anywhere else but right where it's going to be. So now I'm low.
Time remaining.
Now I'm going to turn it on at first knife edge a little bit lower this time and see if I can keep it a little lower. Now I'm going to go around again. Out. Now I'm going to keep just kind of going around and trying to put that plane on its knife edge low and make those first 2 points at the level that I'm looking at. There, I got it pretty close. Didn't stay quite as straight as I wanted it, so I'm going to go around again. Now, after I've gone around a bunch of times and I think I'm right where I want to be, then I'm going to try my takeoff again.
Time remaining 3 minutes.
One of the reasons for the practice is kind of simple. You do want to ultimately be comfortable low. But in order for me to be low, I have to know where my throttle needs to be. Because on the last 2 that I did, for instance, the nose seemed to drop a little bit. That's not a good idea when you're really close to the ground. So I'm going to try and leave the ground with a little more speed. So this time when I finally do this maneuver, see how much more crisp and the nose isn't falling? And now I kind of got the maneuver. Practicing rolling Harriers and hovering and things of that nature. I'll show you, kind of what I do to try and practice. And I have so many videos on how to get started with rolling Harriers and how to practice. Right. How to practice a rolling Harrier. Well, obviously you can practice it up a little higher, but I'm presuming, that you're getting a little better at it and you want to just get better at it. I have 2 techniques that I use to really refine it. And one of them is, I practice a descending rolling Harrier. So I go up at altitude, come over, and as I start down, I cut the throttle and start rolling. And now I try and figure out how to keep the nose up and fall at the same time. This is a really, really, really good exercise for anybody wanting to learn a rolling Harrier, because this looks really, it always looks really good to roll as you're coming down. And eventually, you see I'm pointing it down wind. I'm going to come around and bring it down. So this is a great exercise. We start up high, start rolling, and just let the nose fall, but feed a lot of rudder and a lot of elevator. And feeding a lot of it really helps. It really helps the aircraft level off and helps you fly a rolling Harrier that looks nice at low speeds because it's obviously falling, it's descending. As soon as the throttle comes on, it's a lot easier. Like now, it's a lot easier. But once I cut the throttle, you know, the nose doesn't want to stay up. So you have to overcompensate on all the surfaces, just like I'm doing now. I'm feeding a lot of elevator and a lot of rudder. All right, another maneuver I really like is a pop top to a rolling Harrier. So we're gonna go up, do the pop top. Once it comes around, I'm gonna find a way to get this thing lower to the ground, just like this, and start rolling until I get low enough, just like that. Now, I've also done a lot of videos on how to hover and how to learn to hover. And again, my big recommendation here is to practice one flight control at a time, like I did on my last one, which is just practicing throttle control. Forget about anything else. Practice the throttle control. Practice one flight control at a time. Once you get the throttle, and I kind of got the throttle working that I can keep it up there, pull back on the elevator, then push forward on the elevator. Work on that a little bit. And don't be afraid to burn a lot of packs just doing the same thing over and over again. You're going to want to practice entering a hover. I always recommend you get into the hover out of a Harrier, just like this. So I have it low. Practice standing it up. You're up, let it go, and pull away. All we want to do is practice getting the aircraft in position from a Harrier. One maneuver at a time, one thing at a time, one flight control at a time. And as soon as you get slightly uncomfortable, right there, you're hovering up and away. First things first, you got to master what I just did in order to start hovering down low like that. If you're already good at hovering up top, maybe that's all you have to work on. But like I said many times, practice one stick movement at a time until you eventually become proficient. There's another type of a maneuver that is maybe violent and low, that it just really takes more courage than knowing how to manipulate the sticks. I'm going to do what's called a rudder dump. I'm going to go up, immediately hit the rudder real hard and reverse it to where I'm pointed nose down with full throttle. So I'll show you how this looks and then I'll show you how to practice it. So you can do it just like I'm doing. You can do it right off of takeoff. We're going to go straight up and down and out. Most maneuvers, to do them right, just involves repetition. So obviously the way to do this is to see how the plane's going to respond. So I'm going fast up high, straight up, straight down, and realize that I don't have to panic at any point. So we're going to do it again. But this time, guess what? We're going to go a little bit lower. Till eventually, this maneuver can be done literally almost on the ground and just go straight up. Obviously, the quicker you hit the rudder after you go nose up, the cooler the maneuver looks. So this time we'll just go straight left and right, left, right. All the other maneuvers, everything from point rolls to snap rolls, same thing. If you want to practice that, keep it up high until you're comfortable. And the more comfortable you get, we're down a little bit lower. We do the same maneuver. This time stop at 3/4, or 1 1/4 rather. And that's basically it. I mean, the rules are pretty simple. Try them high and try them one stick maneuver at a time. Even crazy maneuvers, like this death dive that I do. I'm going to dive it at the ground, Andrew. Straight down. Even if you want to do this and you want to stop it at the ground, do the same maneuver, but start it, but stop the plane up a little higher. This is the same maneuver. Straight down, stop it up here. still looked pretty cool, and eventually you get more and more and more brave until you could start it right up above the ground. You know, all the tumbling maneuvers are by far the easiest. Teaching you how to practice that might not even be necessary. But the bottom line is get it up high, get it started doing it, and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat until you're getting the results you want. My suggestion, as you'll see in the video as I'm actually doing it, is sometimes if there are maneuvers like a knife edge spin or something like that that requires multiple inputs, just practice one particular move at a time. I have videos on how to move your thumbs for each of these maneuvers. So once you get it, then of course it becomes easy. I break it down into 3 or 4 types. This particular type is the easiest because they're tumbling maneuvers. I mean, you simply go up, you know, if you want to do a knife edge spin, go over and just see how it feels. And I got this one first try. And when I came out reasonably high. You guys have seen my videos, you've seen me come out of that, you know, really low over the ground. That's from confidence. There's 2 parts of a tumbling maneuver. One is entering it and making it look the way you want, like this maneuver.
20 seconds.
But coming out, you have to decide how you want to do it. So, you know, the big trick obviously is just don't panic and let the plane do what it wants.
10.
And add a little bit of throttle coming out to make sure that you're not going to stall the aircraft or something like that. But the only way to practice these things is to repeat. Now, maneuvers that require multiple inputs, for instance, like a pop top, okay? Pop top requires aileron, then rudder, then elevator to make it come around, and then throttle to save it coming out at the top. So the way to practice these things is one flight control at a time. So in this case, I am going to roll the elevator or the ailerons and then move the elevator to flatten it. That will never look like a pop top because I've eliminated the rudder. You can also start learning to do that maneuver by going straight up, aileron, and then rudder, and forget about the elevator for the time being. But one way or another, the best way to do a knife edge spin or anything is practice one surface at a time. I like to get into a knife edge spin or teach people to do it by just going straight over the top, kick a little rudder, and just push on the elevator and just see how it feels. And you see it's falling down at it looks a little strange when it's falling down. It's very nose down. So watch, I'm going to go over the top, add that rudder, and just see how it feels to start pushing over. So I'm going to go up, push over, add that little bit of rudder, and then add the throttle. And you see it's going very nose down, and it doesn't look a lot like a knife edge spin. One surface at a time until we can finally combine them. Up. We're going to go over, add the throttle earlier, and get it going. And now the plane's spinning. Most all of the tumbling maneuvers are really, really easy. One notable exception is the pop top because you really have to coordinate. I mean, like you really have to coordinate the controls. So it's going to go up, spin over, and come around. These maneuvers are the entire reason I'm doing this video. I'm going to try and help with some of the others, but this is going to be how to practice straight line flying and the most difficult really maneuvers to do, which is trying to keep the plane straight through a loop or a roll. So let me show you how I practice those. Okay, one of the coolest things in my arsenal as far as I'm concerned is the straight line slow rolling maneuvers. I think they look incredible. They took so long to learn how to do. But here's how I practice them.
Flight mode 2.
For instance, I'll do one right here on takeoff. I'll do like a single rolling circle. Well, the wind is blowing me around a little bit. We're trying to keep this plane straight and trying to keep this plane, you know, on the geometry. As you can see, I just came off of it a little bit because of the wind. is a little tricky. So in order to do this stuff, I divide it into 4 quadrants, 4 parts of it. The first thing that you have to learn to do before you can do a circle like this is to learn to roll straight. And I've showed this in some other videos. You go up high, and we're going to start rolling and then add the rudder. And you see my nose pointing down? That's what we don't want. So we are going to go back and forth at the exact same height, the exact same angle, and we are going to do everything we can to keep that nose perfectly straight. Whoops, see, I got it. Now, as you're flying by, you'll see that you're going to have to fuss with the elevator a little bit. The slower you go, the more you're going to have to actually adjust the aircraft. So, I figured out how to keep the nose up. So all I'm doing here, same exact angle, is I'm going to roll and keep the nose up. I got it. But you can see the plane is now going, across the runway.
It's 9 minutes.
So now we are going to have to learn for that first quarter of a roll. We're going to have to learn how to nose up. And now I'm going to pull a little elevator. Now I'm staying straight and the nose is straight. Okay. Now obviously there's a lot of things you can do with that maneuver, which is, you can just get into a knife edge pass. Now my suggestion is to fly an entire battery pack. See if you can get it a little lower even. See I'm flying straight. And that's it. Just keep doing it until you can keep it straight. Pick a line on the runway, whether it's a center line. We're going to turn it on knife edge. We're going to watch the altitude. And now we're going to just keep using the elevator to keep it straight.
Minus 10 minutes.
Now, obviously, if you're trying to do this maneuver, you're probably a little more comfortable on knife edge than a beginner or intermediate pilot. But if you're not, just do it up higher. A long, slow roll up this height looks really good. See how nice and pretty we can make this? Now, we have to practice the second part. The second part, obviously, is to roll out of that knife edge. And again, the slower you do it, the harder it is. We're going to roll out of the knife edge to inverted. So we're going to roll onto the knife edge, we're straight and high. Now we're going to roll inverted and stay straight. Now we have a slow half roll, which is a really beautiful maneuver, and it's a type of maneuver that will impress absolutely anybody at the field. Especially if you stretch it out. The longer you stretch it out, like right now, we can get it on its inverted and keep flying down the runway. Now, as you get better and better at this maneuver, you can literally fly this maneuver to where it takes forever to get to the other side of the runway. You can make that maneuver last the entire length of the runway. Look, I'm at a quarter right in front of me, half at the other side. Can't tell you how difficult that is. I'm not being dismissive of the difficulty, but the only way to do it is to fly it and just keep manipulating the plane and keep watching it till eventually you can get through all 4 points. I'm not going to bore you with showing you every single step, but that's the process.
Minus 12 minutes.
Every other single rolling maneuver, like the single rolling circle I showed you, it's really all the same. It's trying to, for instance, I'm going to do a single rolling loop here. I'm going to start inverted. You start with only the first part of it. There you go. I'm at a quarter. Now I'm rolling to half. Now I'm over to 3/4. Now I'm all the way. So when you're getting started on this maneuver, the way to do it is we're going to start it way up high, way up here, fly straight, and then we're just going to fly the first quarter. Little rudder. Now we're at a quarter, 9 o'clock basically, and forget it. Go back around, go back down. Of course, you can do it this way. That was starting inverted. You can do it that way. See, we're at a quarter. That way's a lot easier.
Minus 13 minutes.
I just like to do them from inverted. So we're going to go to a quarter. Keep the throttle on. There we go at 9 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, we need to be inverted. So that's our next step. And we can just bail out from there. See, we do not have to complete it every time. But if you'll notice, when I do that, it's straight. And that's the big deal. You have to keep the plane straight. You see it's on the same line that I started. Now, again, the trick is just practice one part of it over and over and over and over again. Obviously, after, like I can do it first try. You won't be able to do it first try. There's maneuvers that still literally drive me insane, that are straight line maneuvers where I'm really trying to keep that plane straight. I do a maneuver called the tick-tock loop, where in order to keep it straight, I gotta go tick, tock, trying to keep the geometry, roll back and forth. And these things, like with every plane, if I'm gonna do that maneuver, I have to fly it 4 or 5 times before I can get it right when I switch planes. It's that difficult and that, and that unique to each airframe. But as I'm flying, I'm focusing on everything to keep it straight. Anyway, these maneuvers are very difficult. The deal is up a little higher, one portion at a time.